Hey, it's Gerald from Lakers Fast Break. Anchor is the easiest way to make your next podcast. It's absolutely free, and their creation tools will allow you to record and edit your show right from your phone or your home computer. Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on great podcast outlets like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Radio Public, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So download the free Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started on your next podcast. And we're back for another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Pop Culture Cosmos, the Lakers Fast Break, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our shows, and if you can, please go ahead and give us that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We would truly appreciate it. Also as well, like, subscribe, give us a great review. Whatever you can do to support us, we truly appreciate everything you do right here for us at the Lakers Fast Break and Pop Culture Cosmos, and we cannot thank you enough for any support that you give our show. A lot of episodes on the Lakers Fast Break this month. Cannot tell me that we don't have enough content on the show, because not counting today's awesome guest, and not counting the one I've got upcoming this week with Chris LeBron, I think I have 15 episodes this month up there already. That's a lot for you right there, all covering the NBA bubble, so you can check them all out. They're all still relevant and they're all still ready to go. You can go ahead and listen to them right now, available on Lakers Fast Break podcast. I almost feel as challenged as my guest right here. He's got as much to do, if not more, when it comes to all of he's doing today, and you can check it out right now on Facebook Live at NBA Draft Junkies. You can check out his NBA Draft Junkies YouTube page, which he's at 11,500 subscribers. Trying to get to that magic 12,000, so if you can support him there, please do so. His awesome page, NBADraftJunkies.com, and of course his podcast, NBA Draft Junkies. It is my good friend, the very also tired Rafael Barlowe. And Rafael, I'm exhausted, man. I'm going on fumes.
Every time I get on Facebook, I see the notification that you're doing a new podcast or new video with someone. So your work ethic is definitely should never be questioned. I should say that much.
Well, I'm trying, man. I'm trying to make a product out there that people will like, enjoy, that people can go ahead and follow, and just have out there just something that they can listen to, like, and hopefully appreciate, where we not only cover what we do with the Lakers, with Laker Tom, which is our latest episode just before this, but also stuff with you covering the just general NBA, the NBA draft. I like a well-rounded podcast. And of course, you know, the stuff I do with the Pop Culture Cosmos that gets sent worldwide. And it's something I do a lot of, but I do still enjoy it. I still do appreciate it. And you gotta realize, as you do, when you do your stuff, you're editing 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. You gotta really like what you do in order to go ahead and do it.
100%. I agree. I thought I was doing something. I've made 7 podcasts in, I think, 19 days, or maybe 18. Well, so you
mentioned that on
20?
Twitter. Yeah. I have around 20 this month so far.
So one a day.
Check my sanity at the door. And the reason why
step it up.
The reason why he has to step it up, or he says he does. He doesn't have to, but he says he does, because he's got great podcasts out there. Is because he recently said on Twitter, you said you got to up your game. You said the 7 to 10 a week. Is that correct? Or is it 5 to 7?
I think it's 5 to 7.
Okay.
So if I continue it, if I can get started at that pace, then I'll be able to catch up with you.
Well, but you got videos, man. That's the thing. The videos are still time consuming for you. Plus, you and I still write on the off chance every now and then, for me for the popculturecosmos.com and you for the NBA Draft Junkies. We still got to write that. I still got to update my mock draft 2.0. I've got that on a page and I haven't even finished it yet because we're doing stuff like this.
One day it will all pay off.
I hope so.
When you get that big Spotify check.
Just call me Bill.
400 million.
400 million, like Bill Simmons. Yes. Tell you what, we're going to do this together. If all of our stuff, hopefully they'll buy all our stuff together, and we'll go ahead and cash that paycheck together. So how about that?
Sounds like a plan.
There you go, my friend. But speaking of cashing paychecks, in order to cash paychecks in the NBA right now, you got to go ahead and be down in Orlando, which seems to be a problem for some of the individuals because we don't exactly know 100% who's there and who's not there. Well, outside of Matisse Thybulle and JaVale Mcgee. I mean, they're very happy to show you on their vlogs that they're there, especially JaVale going down the water slide the other day at Typhoon Lagoon. I thought that was fun. I've been there. I've done that. And that is truly an enjoyable experience. And to have it all by yourself, literally, I thought that was really cool for them, for him and Kuzma that were down there. But yeah, there just seemed to be, like I said, some, I guess, it's good that there are no positive tests, which Shams Charania just posted on Twitter just before we went on the air, that as of now there are no positive tests inside the bubble, which is obviously the best result that you can get right now. We're keeping our fingers crossed that they continue to do that. But there's a lot of questions about who is not in the bubble and why they're not in the bubble.
Right. And we'll never find out. Unless someone gives an exact reason why they're not, but it doesn't look like we'll find out.
No, it doesn't, and that's going to be the case because I think there's still on Tuesday. Is there any type of media days, or they're supposed to get a clarification just before the scrimmages begin? Like you said, not why that they're out, but who is down there specifically. At least they're supposed to give you a better idea, because up until now, the NBA and the Players Association have been very hush-hush, and the only way we're able to go ahead and get any type of information is, of course, when he was active, Adrian Wojnarowski, which I could almost not say on the show because I got roasted every time I said Free Woj or Wojnarowski on our previous episodes. The one we did together, my gosh, the comments on that one. And then you have Shams Charania, then you have Chris Haynes, and then you have all these insiders. That's the only way we're able to get this kind of information, is on who's exactly down there and who isn't.
Yeah, and I guess we're supposed to find out, I don't know if it was today or tomorrow, when the practices are supposed to be open to the media. I'm not sure when it is, but like you said, a second media day or bubble media day. I mean, I've heard all the speculation of who's not there. Like the Nuggets only have 8 players.
Phoenix.
Yeah, I heard Phoenix is short-staffed. I guess we'll find out more tomorrow, but as far as finding out why, I mean, I just think it's pretty simple to give the general answer of I had to attend some family issues or family matters or family emergencies. And it seems like that's going to be the common theme.
Absolutely. And not even the Lakers have their full contingent, because we're still wondering what's going on with Markieff Morris. Is he going to be arriving at the bubble? I mean, he is a key to what the Lakers can do for going forward, I think, because of what he brings to the table if he's healthy and he's up to full speed. So the scrimmages, I thought, would have really benefited him, but we're, like you said, we're not even sure if he's there or if he's not there or exactly what's going on. So I'm hopeful that we're going to go ahead and get some type of clarification, because the scrimmages for these NBA teams, the Lakers and all the others, are coming up very soon. It's kind of funny, though. I know you probably heard already the Hoops Collective, like I did, one of our favorite podcasts that we actually, obviously, both of us listened to together at various times during the course of the day. And hearing Denver's situation, like you said, with possibly only 8 players there, because Troy Daniels let it slip out in a Zoom call that they could have Bol playing at off-guard position.
Yeah, that's interesting, especially considering that he hasn't played at all this year.
He's just been playing two-way. He's just been playing for the G League team. Yeah, so it's very interesting to see how that is taking place. But I don't know, man. There's continued concern over exactly who's going to be there, and that those questions are still out there. It's like little whispers that it's not going to be the type of full season, 8-game season and playoffs because there won't be everybody there at 100%. I mean, you're hearing those whispers still. Oh, maybe they should throw an asterisk. Maybe they should throw an asterisk because not everybody's there and whatnot. I'm still hearing that. I'm hopeful that that's not the case. Do you think by the end of the month, when the teams actually get and gear up to start playing these games, that those things will be sorted out, for at least for the most part?
Yeah, I think that the players that aren't there will be there, because even if you tested positive right before everybody entered the bubble, they should be able to pass their quarantine and then be able to play now. But I think, the Nets guys, with Beasley, when they signed him and then he tested positive, and then I guess they're saying that he won't be ready. I guess Dinwiddie, I haven't heard the latest with him, but I think the last I heard is that he's not going to play now.
Yeah, that's the last I heard, but I haven't heard 100%. And then we don't even know about Victor Oladipo. I mean, that's the most puzzling thing of all, because he announced before they even went down there that he wasn't going to play, but he's going to travel with the team. So he travels with the team. He's going 100% in practice, no restrictions. And now it's pretty much up in the air because the league has said, you know what, we're not going to pay you if you don't go out there and play because you seem to be 100% healthy and ready to go.
It's kind of reminded me of the Derrick Rose situation in 2012 in a sense where, you heard the rumblings that he was healthy. Well, you started hearing them from like teammates or management that he was 100%, that he looked good. And then if he mentions that he's not comfortable, which I totally understand, if he doesn't want to aggravate it or doesn't want to play, he'd rather sit it out. And I guess that's, his right to do it since it's so much long-term money on the line. So I get it from that perspective.
But he could be out about around $3 million if he doesn't.
Yeah, to me and you, that's a ridiculous amount of money. But, how much has he made this year already?
Yeah.
But I do think that, and I could be wrong here, but if the league says, hey, we're not going to pay you if you're not going to play and you can't play, and it's $3 million on the line, that may be the reason why you're starting to hear that he may possibly end up playing.
And if he plays, and if he's anywhere near what he was before the injury, that could be a big boost to Indiana's chances to at least making some kind of impression in the NBA playoffs. Otherwise, I don't see them going very far at all.
Well, they've been sneaky good this year.
Yeah.
Even without him. And so there may be some chemistry issues, not like off the court in a bad way, just getting adjusted to him being back and then him playing the role that he had before, him fitting around Sabonis and Turner as opposed to them fitting around him. That may be an issue. But if he plays and he's healthy and they can just kind of iron out the wrinkles of getting back adjusted to playing with him, I think they could make some noise and definitely challenge some teams.
Do you think it's ultimately worked as far as the big man contingent that they have there because you have Sabonis and Turner? It's been, I think for the most part, it's worked to a point. I think that I wouldn't give up on either one of them. I wouldn't trade them because you have those two valuable assets. Both are still somewhat young and so very talented. I think unless you get an outstanding offer for one of them, I would not trade them because it's been kind of mixed as far as people saying, yeah, it has worked, and people say, no, it hasn't quite worked out when it comes to those two working together on the court at the same time.
Yeah, I don't know if you get fair value if you traded one of them.
It most likely would be Turner, I think.
Yeah, that's what people are saying. And I think that he has the friendliest contract of the two, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who I put it like this. I would give them at least another year. If Oladipo's healthy, then I go into next season with the roster as is, as far as making a couple of minor tweaks. But I would keep that core together, and then just kind of see where you're at, at next summer, maybe even around All-Star break. I think that, I don't know, it's kind of hard to say. I've seen like the metrics and the stats that say that they don't play well together. And then I know last year they did Honey McMillan did a good job of staggering their minutes to where Thaddeus Young played more minutes than both of them. But he also, his game complemented both of them and allowed both guys to play to their strengths. But again, this year, it seems like it was working. They were middle of the pack in the Eastern Conference without arguably their best player. Sabonis ended up becoming an all-star this year. So I definitely wait a full season with those three together before I make any changes.
They need some help on the wings, though, and that's where I think in the playoffs that might be a problem for them, is because they don't have enough wing help to go ahead and take them all the way. Because they have, if Oladipo's healthy and gets you what you need in the backcourt with him and Malcolm Brogdon, I think that's a very good backcourt. I think, like you said, you have the front line, and if Turner and Sabonis are playing well, that's a very good front line. It's just right in that middle, to me, is where the issues lie. And the top teams out there have those spots that could create havoc for Indiana because they don't have that certain someone that could go ahead and go fill up the wing spot that will wreak any kind of havoc out there in the Eastern Conference playoffs.
Well, I like TJ Warren. I think as far as just a guy that can go out and get you buckets, I think he's really good at that. I just think that they need to have their full lineup, because how many games have they played with their full lineup with Brogdon, Sabonis, Turner, Oladipo, and Warren? They may have played 5 to 10 games with that group together, if that.
And Oladipo's not even ready.
I'd give it another look, and then nobody knows what free agency is going to look like this year, and then I don't think they have a pick in the draft, because it seems like that was part of the deal. I think Milwaukee has their pick. I don't know if that's part of the Brogdon trade, sign and trade, or not. But they've done a good job. For the Pacers to be a small market team and to lose Paul George, they've done a good job of just maintaining as far as being competitive. They haven't had to start totally from scratch and rebuild. So I like what their front office has done. Kevin Pritchard and Larry Bird still part of the front office?
I think he's an advisor, if I'm not mistaken.
He's an advisor. Well, again, I think they've done a pretty good job. And so I would hate to see them break up that core unless it's going to make them better. But I guess if their future, a lot of it depends on how long Oladipo wants to be there. I've heard the rumors that Miami is going to go after him. And then him deciding not to play and thinking about his future could possibly be something I think should be a little bit concerned about also.
And I also think that it's going to be hard for them to ever get marquee free agents there in order to go ahead and get quality players there above what they can charge or get for, let's say, the median, or let's say the qualifying offers, or even the mid-levels. They're never going to be able to get a top player on the hands unless it's via trade or draft. So they may have to, like you said, look in the future and trade some valuable assets now in order to go ahead and be more prosperous down the road. It's just something that they want to look at. I would give it more time as well. I would see if they can develop, like you said, either TJ Warren, or I really see TJ Warren as someone coming off the bench personally. I don't think he can be at the level that you need to for him to be in order to go ahead and again get Indiana where Indiana needs to be according to a lot of their fans out there. But I think that he's good, but I just think they can do better in that slot with the 3 slot and go from there.
That makes sense. As far as getting free agents, I think there's really only a couple markets where you can say, well, we can turn it around fast with free agents. That's going to be the LA market. I mean, for years, the New York market struggled until last summer. They weren't able to get any free agents. Chicago is arguably one of the best cities in the NBA in the world. They haven't been able to attract free agents. I mean, who's the last free agent the Bulls got? Boozer. So Houston has been able to be competitive without free agents. I mean, look at Milwaukee and Utah. They haven't, needed marquee free agents, but I think getting those second-tier free agents help.
Yeah.
Brogdon was a big addition for them. Even with Utah with Bogdanovich, that was a big sign for them. And so I think as long as you draft, some cornerstones, which they didn't even draft Oladipo. They ended up getting him part of the Paul George. Sabonis was also part of
that was a
that trade.
Deal.
Yeah. So I think teams can survive and become really competitive without the lure of being a top free agent destination.
There you go. In fact, Golden State even, how did they get to where they were at? Through great drafting.
Yep. And then, once they had their pieces, they landed the big fish in Durant. And so same with Miami. They don't get LeBron and Bosh if they don't have Wade already there who they drafted. Yeah. And so, outside of the Lakers, I think New York, the Knicks are always going to have an opportunity to be a free agent destination, whether or not they capitalize on it or not. But I just think like the Lakers and now the Clippers are the only teams that you can say, well, if we stink, we could just rebuild tomorrow through free agency.
Let's put it that way. I think you're right. I think that's the case. You can build, but going forward for Indiana, it's going to look like something with a healthy Oladipo, if he can produce. Because in the last game, I think he was the only real game. I think it was he scored 28 points. I think it was the last and only game he looked like Victor Oladipo, or somewhat like Victor Oladipo before the coronavirus hit and the break happened. So I'm hopeful that he will go ahead and want to contribute this 8-game stretch and the playoffs for Indiana. Makes it more competitive, makes it more interesting for viewers out there, makes it more interesting for fans like us and people who love the NBA to see another team that can, I can go ahead and put these players out there and I can compete for an Eastern Conference title and not just go ahead and roll over for Milwaukee like everybody is expecting.
Right. I'm just really curious to see if he plays or not, because I did hear when he got hurt that, the knee issue had been bothering him for a while and the Pacers had cleared him to play. And so if he decides not to play, I think that's going to open up the conversation of, he's upset with how they handle his knee. That's why he's choosing not to play, which is going to lead to conversations about, is he going to sign long-term? And I think he can be up for an extension this summer, if I'm not mistaken. They can offer him one. And if he decides that he doesn't want to take it, then you're in a predicament to where you have to decide, do you want to move him now and try to get some assets for him, or take the gamble and let him go into the open market?
Would look good on the Lakers. All I'm saying.
How much of a pay cut would he have to take?
It's true. LeBron, he'll try to sweet talk anybody if he really likes them. So we'll wait and see.
I really see LeBron like doing something crazy towards the end of his career, like playing for like the minimum and allowing them to get somebody, another max player. And
remember,
just
there's also
his legacy.
Well, Bronny. If Bronny, where Bronny goes, he's going to go. Isn't that correct?
I don't think he's ever personally said it. I think it's mostly speculation. But it's too early to even predict that he's an NBA player. I mean, I don't know. I follow the high school ranks. There are a lot of guys who are McDonald's All-Americans going into their freshman year of college who never make it. So it's just kind of hard to predict. I mean, he's only, just finished his 9th grade year. So to predict him to be an NBA player when he didn't, I don't even think he started on his high school team.
No, he didn't.
I mean, they were good, they were definitely good, and they had a lot of high-level players, but way too early, in my opinion, to start predicting that.
And you would know better than anybody out there because you're the man behind NBA Draft Junkies. It is Rafael Barlowe. I'm talking to him right now. You got to check out what he's doing today, though. When he's not talking to me, he's doing 100 million things for NBA Draft Junkies. Check out NBADraftJunkies.com, his podcast, NBA Draft Junkies, and, of course, his YouTube page, NBA Draft Junkies, which I'm showing everybody right now on Facebook Live. All the great episodes, all the great videos he's got there, breakdowns of all the players that are eligible right now for the NBA draft. And also, if you check out what they did just recently, a little over a week ago, they had a mock draft together with him, Kuzi Killick, his brother James. You had Stone Hansen and the Weisenbergs from Viceland. They were all together for a live mock draft. I watched it. I was part of it as far as live on the other end, typing things up. It was a great time indeed. Some very interesting picks and a very surprising reaction for the fans out there on your star GM, Kuzi Killick. And you can check that out today on NBA Draft Junkies. I know you guys had a great time, and I look forward to being part of the next one or the next go-around that you guys have.
Okay, yeah, we just got to add more. We got to upgrade the StreamYard so we can get more guests on there.
I told you I'm in. I'm what you need to do, and we'll get it done.
This is Rafael from NBADraftJunkies.com, and you are listening to the Lakers Fast Break.
Check out what's been going on with the Pop Culture Cosmos Show and the PCC Multiverse.
I see the potential for basically like another Netflix kind of paradigm shift where here comes this other major player. They have a ton of resources. Apple could change the way that entertainment is consumed.
They say it's the only time this year that you'll have stars from each brand battling each other, and we know it's not going to be the case, but they like to say that, and more power to them, I guess.
Well, it's a big first step, bringing all those superheroes together. There were definitely some parts of the movie that I really enjoyed, and then there were some parts that I thought just kind of fell short of expectation.
Part of it has to be something to do with how it's being promoted, and this is a thing where audiences do not agree with critics.
That's the Pop Culture Cosmos Show.
And the PCC Multiverse, every week on Apple Podcasts.
And over a dozen of your favorite streaming and podcasting options. But speaking of shaky knees, there's Kemba Walker for the Boston Celtics. Something that is also kind of up in the air, up in question, like players, whether or not they're there in Orlando or not. And that is his chances coming back full strength, because he's even quoted as saying over the course of a period of time of the past few months that even with this time off, his knee is still not feeling right. So if his knee is not feeling right and he's limited or is out, what does that do to the Celtics as far as the overall chances, as far as that's concerned, in the Eastern Conference?
Yeah, that would be a big blow to Boston. That would be really, really big as far as just bad luck. I mean, was it 2 years ago, Kyrie didn't play in the playoffs. Last year, they didn't have Hayward. And so if they end up playing the playoffs without Kemba.
And they could be without Hayward again, because if he leaves for his wife's pregnancy.
Yeah, I mean, just bad luck. But, there are some people that will say, well, hey, this is what they get. This is karma for the way they handled the Isaiah Thomas situation. So, I mean, I've heard, I've seen that on Twitter, and I've heard a few people express that, they thought that was a bad situation for the Celtics, knowing that Isaiah had a bad hip and they kept playing him. And then as soon as they knew it was a bad situation, they got rid of him when he just gave his heart and soul to the team. And I don't know if it was true or not, but remember they were saying like it was Anthony Davis's father that had made the comment saying that Anthony wouldn't go to Boston because of how they handled Isaiah Thomas.
I believe that is correct. He said something to that effect as far as that he was not happy with the way Boston treated certain players. And I think that was alluded to. That was Isaiah Thomas. And because of that, AD would not be going in that direction. Thankful for us here as Lakers fans. But obviously they're trying to be careful with Kemba's knee at this point in time because you're right, he is so important to their cause over in Boston. And unfortunately for Isaiah Thomas, the Brinks truck never did get a chance to back up for him, and never will for him, as far as to the extent that he was going to be owed to someone that was in the top 5 MVP voting for 1 year. So
yeah, he averaged 29 points a game, which was, I think once time passes and we go back, we'll look at his 2016-17 as one of the just most impressive seasons in recent NBA history, especially considering like how small he was, how small he is, and then just on paper, that was not a very talented team.
Yeah.
And I think they were the number 1 seed.
I believe they were, and he helped them very much so. And it's just going to be very sad to see his career ending, because it's closer to that route as opposed to 30 right now. So he's not exactly seeing the better days. So he will never, unfortunately, see the type of money that he was expecting at that point in time. So, fortunately, sports happens like that. DeMarcus Cousins, you're seeing something similar. I mean, Nerlens Noel, that's probably the one that I probably say is the most disadvantageous, because we talk about all these players that weren't deserving in the 2016 contract year to go ahead and get all those big, huge, massive contracts. I think Nerlens Noel turned down a $70 million deal at some point in time. Yeah, and unfortunately, he had some injuries, but he's just never been able to go ahead and get anywhere near that standard anytime since.
That's a lot of money to lose. I mean, I guess if you never had it, then you can't miss it. Yeah. But knowing that
he dances to a beat to a different drummer, because remember, he's also the one in Dallas that got caught red-handed during halftime eating the hot dogs.
Hot dog, yeah. Yes.
So him turning down that $70 million and unfortunately never getting anything close to that since is something that I'm sure hopefully he doesn't think about it, because I know I would, and I would regret it every day.
Well, he signed with Clutch, so he could eventually end up being a Laker. And then once you're a Laker, as a big man, you can get these passes and alley-oops, easy shots from LeBron, which makes your value go up, and then you can recoup some of the money. So it wouldn't shock me.
I don't. I see him.
Every episode I have to make my Clutch LeBron a comment. I think it's cool, but I also think it's a tough predicament because Rich Paul and LeBron James have made the Lakers relevant. And so I feel like Jenny and Rob, they kind of have to like allow them to have a lot of say-so in the organization, which, I mean, how many guys on the roster are Clutch guys now?
What are we, 6? Going on 6?
So Morris, Bron, Caldwell Pope, JR, Dion, Horton Tucker. So that's 6 just off the top of my head.
Well, Nerlens Noel, if he comes to the Lakers, that would be I don't even see him. I see him as a less talented JaVale Mcgee, to be honest with you. So that's, if JaVale Mcgee retires, maybe take a spot, but don't get me started. And well,
I mean, like we've said before with Dwight, you can even make a case and say JaVale has played himself into a bigger deal.
Yes, absolutely. It's just, he's actually a little bit older now too, so that's what you got to worry about with him. When are those knees that have done so well for him as far as getting them that chance to go ahead and lead the league or be eligible or be high up there as far as block shots and defense, and obviously be at such a great thing for the Lakers and also the Golden State Warriors beforehand, playing in limited minutes because he knows his role. He knows what he needs to do. He's not going to give you flack about whether or not he's going to play or not. He goes, he plays his minutes, does what he can, and he doesn't ask for very much more. So that's the type of player you need coming off the bench, or in his case, spot minutes as a starter. And I think that's something that hopefully a lot of these other players, like Nerlens Noel, can understand what the role is going down the line when you're playing for these NBA teams. So I'm hoping that Nerlens Noel is going to go ahead and have a prosperous future. I don't think it's going to be a $70 million worth. And as we're seeing with some of these other cases where people are, these players are turning down this kind of money, sometimes it's very head scratching between you and I.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's something that we'll understand because, you put that type of money in front of my face, I'm taking it right away. But I also don't have an agent that's telling me you can get more. I can get you more money. I can get you more money. So, yeah, I know I would have took the money. But then, there's some gambles that have paid off. Like I remember Jimmy Butler. I think he turned down 80,
Yes.
and then he ended up getting I think he turned down like 50, and then he ended up getting 80. I think Tristan Thompson did the same thing when he got his $80 or $70 million deal a few years back. So it's worked out for some guys. And then obviously when you gamble, that's the risk that you take. And he gambled on himself and struck out badly.
This is true. Once again, I'm talking to Rafael Barlowe from the NBA Draft Junkies. You got to check out what he's doing today at NBADraftJunkies.com, along with Kuzi Killick and also as well Joe Gomez. They comprise the NBA Draft Junkies, so you got to check out what they're doing today at NBA Draft Junkies. Before we head on out, my friend, two quick things. I'm going to go ahead and hit Jonathan Kuminga first, and he is considered a high NBA draft prospect next year.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to ask you this. He recently also decided to go ahead and forego the route of college basketball, seeing as how there possibly will not be any college basketball this fall, and has decided to go the route of the G League. Do you see this as the last, or do you see this as probably another in the line of individuals that will be making the same decision over the next few weeks?
I don't think he'll be the last. I think as more questions begin to arise about college sports and just even the students going back to campus, I think some other guys will take the money. I mean, I've expressed it before. I don't really fully understand this whole G League pathway program, especially if they're not going to play in a bunch of competitive games. I'm under the impression, and this is just my opinion, I don't have any intel on it, but it seems like it's designed to gather intel on all the players. So, for example, if I give some 18-year-olds anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000, and they live in LA and they train, they're going to have a bunch of free time and idle time. If I'm an NBA GM, and that's like my dream job, so I always try to think in the mindset of an NBA GM. I think this is like the ultimate test of maturity to see how this person is going to react. Because it's LA, and it's a place that if you're young and you're rich, you can get into a lot of trouble, but not necessarily saying these guys are going to get in trouble. It's just a way to see, all right, are they going to come on time? Are they going to work out every day? Are they going to be out every night? And I think that if you have some guys that can't handle the lifestyle at $300,000 or $500,000 at 18, then some teams are going to be less likely to give them a guaranteed 3-year contract for, like $4 or $5 million, or I don't even know how much the number one pick gets. I think it's about maybe $9 million a year, something like that now. So I definitely believe that there are some guys who are going to see their stock drop just because of the intel.
Yeah, and that's
just my opinion.
No, that's actually very sound, man, my friend. That's very sound. And the thing that when it comes to these guys that are going to the G League, I think that's now going to become more interesting to them and appealing because, like you said, we don't know what the status is of college sports going forward this fall. Most likely, a lot of these college basketball teams will not be going and hitting the hard floor this fall because of the coronavirus and all that, which makes my thought process on Cunningham from Oklahoma State that much more curious on what he's going to do, knowing that A, he might not even be able to play a game this season until the spring at the earliest, and B, his team is not even eligible for the postseason. So that makes his decision staying at Oklahoma State even more curious.
Yeah, and even for the coach, like Coach Mike Boynton, even though he signed on the dotted line, even though I think he might be on campus now, you still have to recruit him. Like, it's not – he can leave at any moment, I believe, and I don't think would be any penalty for it. So the recruiting process is still ongoing until until you find out more about the season or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's something that I don't think that door is completely shut. I think he's, I respect and honor. I respect the fact that he honored his commitment and he's been loyal to Oklahoma State and their coaching staff, especially to turn down that type of money, which at that age, I don't know if I would have done it. But I also feel that even if he doesn't make it to the NCAA tournament, if they have a college season, the basketball and the level of basketball that he'll be playing will be more competitive than the guys that are in this G League Path program. Because right now, I mean, if they're really playing these NBA academies, they're not going to get better in those games. They're just going to get better through workouts. It's almost like they're sitting out a year. And that's why I say, I wonder, is this really more so about intel as opposed to, I mean, of course, it's developing them is what would be part of the process, but I just wonder, is intel the main thing? Because the teams, I mean, they missed out on RJ and LaMelo. I wonder how many teams got a chance to actually see them live, go to their practices, get a chance to know them. And then, I don't think they played more than 15 games total. So if you missed it, you had a short window to get out there and watch them play. So now some teams are going to, pay them millions of dollars guaranteed with very little intel. And especially now with this, this pandemic that's going on, you won't even get a chance to bring them in for a workout. You're going to interview them through Zoom. So you're going to have to make a multi-year, multi-million-dollar commitment for some players that you really don't know.
And that's the question, isn't it? With a lot of these players, especially when it comes to LaMelo Ball and RJ Hampton, you had to go trek out there. You made the trek over to Australia, and you've already commented on our previous shows, and hopefully people get a chance to check out our previous last Lakers Fast Break issues and Lakers Fast Break episodes to go ahead and check out what your initial thoughts are when you went over there to Australia to go check them out. But you're right. How many other teams did the same exact thing?
Yeah, I know the game I went to was the game that the first time they played against each other. And I want to say I personally saw like 3 teams there. And that was one of the biggest scouting events of, this basketball season. 2 guys that were projected lottery going head to head. There's only 3 teams there. And I mean, I was in China. And so for me in China, that was like a 19-hour trip. And I'm thinking, it's the same side of the world. It's just a straight shot down. I realized how big this world is when I went. And the game was actually in New Zealand, but I had to fly through Australia. And I'm a big geography guy, and I love traveling. But that experience, just to see how far it was, I think it was maybe, I don't know, let's say the game was on a Tuesday night, but I was watching NBA games at like 4:00 p.m., but they were NBA games from they were live, but it was like, I don't know, the Tuesday night game was on like Wednesday at like 4:00. It was just crazy weird. So anyway, I said all to say this. I mean, that's just not a trip that you can just get on a plane and go to and come back in a couple of days and watch. So you really have to take quite a few days to go there. So I don't think a lot of teams did it. And I also think that if they didn't have this, if they didn't up the money, more players were going to go to Australia, which means it would have been even harder for teams to continue to go out there multiple times a year to, to watch guys practice and get intel. So I think part of the reason is they up the money for the G League is to prevent guys from going to Australia. And now they have all the intel you need on a prospect.
Tested your limits there, didn't it?
Yep. Yeah.
But that would have been an interesting ride, from China to Australia to New Zealand. I envious of you now, but if we're doing the trip, maybe after 19 hours, I would have been like,
yeah, that was tough. And then the mistake I made was I went there and then I came back. So I want to say the game was on Wednesday. I may have got there Tuesday morning, and then I left like Thursday morning. So it was literally 19 hours there for a day and a half, turned back around, and it was a struggle.
You went back to China, is that correct?
Yeah, I went back to Beijing. And I mean, I don't know why. I just thought, it's just straight down. I thought I had no idea that, because I had to go from Beijing to another city in China to Hong Kong to Sydney to Oakland. So that was quite a trip. But it was a great experience.
I'll be taking a trek in the not too distant future from Albuquerque to Texas. It's just a straight line where I'm going. 10 hours each way. Yes.
And most of them will be in Texas.
And not quite exactly what you went through, but still, nonetheless, people think, it's just a straight line on the map. How bad could it be? I
mean, it's just Interstate 10. It's scenic. Albuquerque is pretty scenic. But once you get to Texas, it's just flat.
Exactly. But watch for the speed traps. I'm just going to tell people out there near Albuquerque. It's another story altogether. I want to go ahead and before we go and touch on the last subject, and that is back to Jonathan Kuminga real quickly. He is considered to be one of the fringe top 5 prospects right now, from what I'm reading and understanding and seeing the highlights and whatnot. What are your thoughts now? And obviously they're going to change over the course of the next year, one way or the other. Well, for the most likely, anyways. What are your thoughts on Jonathan Kuminga for next year's draft, the 2021-22 draft that he is considered so high up on?
It's tough to talk about a draft a year ahead, just because if I look at the guys who I thought were lottery picks at this time last year, a few of them aren't going to be in the lottery. Yeah. So just based off of what the projections are from, I don't even know if you can even say they're projections from NBA scouts, because NBA scouts really haven't had an opportunity to watch these high school players unless they saw them, in the Nike camp or Team USA or whatever. So all of this predictions are just kind of based off of high school rankings, which absolutely mean nothing to me. But he's a talent. Like I can definitely see why he's a highly rated NBA prospect. But as of right now, if he works out fine and, there's no issues as far as just like maturity going on in LA, without playing a lot of these games, he's probably going to end up being a top 5 pick based off of his high school reputation, not based off of what he did in college or, like if you look at, if they would have, like based off of the guys that came into college last year. So let's say Isaiah Stewart or Jaden McDaniels or Nico Mannion. Let's say they skip college and they go into this G League path. They might be lottery picks just based off of their high school rankings. So going to college actually hurt them in a sense.
Pretty much, especially with Nico Mannion, who there's a very real possibility might not make it to the first round. Isaiah Stewart, we've seen his fall from grace as being in the top 3. Now he possibly also could fall out of the first round. So it's
Jaden McDaniels.
Yeah, same thing. It's going to be interesting to see how far these guys fall in the course of and span of the year, a little over a year, by the time the draft comes out. And the same thing could happen year in, year in, and you see it year in, year out. So it's hard to gauge where Jonathan Kuminga is at, but obviously right now, if the fall season for college basketball is nixed right now because of coronavirus, maybe going the G League route wasn't a bad idea for him after all.
Yeah, I think it helps his draft stock. I think you'd have to really do something really immature or crazy for your draft stock to fall if you do the whole G League path thing. So I think as a player, you're getting the money and the chances of your stock falling are slimmer than it would if you go to college, which is why if I'm in charge, and I guess as a fan, I want the guys. All right, if you do this G League Path program, then we're going to throw you out to the wolves. You're going to play against real G League competition. Which, if you plan to be an NBA player, you're going to have to face better players anyway. Yeah. So I just don't understand why they're not going to play a big schedule, or why they're only going to play against NBA academy teams,
or why that the record doesn't count.
Yeah, so that's why I say it has to be all about intel, as opposed to seeing what they can really do. I mean, you're going to judge guys based off of how they work out, and then who wants to work out for, I don't know, from October through April, and that's all you're doing is working out, and you're playing a couple games a month against teams that you could beat, teams that aren't even better than your high school team. So hopefully, I mean, I think the NBA will come out with more details than we have right now, but just based off the information that we have, I'm really not a fan of the G League Path program.
Kind of hard to convince you. I mean, for me, it's a little bit better because I get to see these players a little bit more close up than, like you said, what we could see in Australia and if they go abroad. But you're right. If it's not going to be something where they're going to play at a consistently competitive level, they don't have any type of incentive outside of monetary to be there or to really develop their game, then there's going to be questions on whether they should continue it going forward. I think they should just be high school. Going, if you're high school, you should be eligible to go into the draft as an 18-year-old, and that's, to me, I think should be still the case. For also, I think if you don't get drafted, you should be given the option of being able to go into a college and not have it hurt against you. That's my deal.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't think NBA scouts want to go to high school games again. I mean, it's already tough, for them to have to cover the college. I mean, even though it's kind of broken up in the regions, and then basketball being so global, you have guys all over the world, and now you're going into high school gyms and you're watching them play, especially during the season. Like maybe during AAU, they have matchups against, some other good teams, or you're matching up against some of the best players in another city. But if a guy doesn't attend one of these powerhouse high schools, he just attends a regular high school that plays just a regular schedule, it's hard to see how he would match up against somebody that's his size or just as athletic. Because I'm thinking about, like, Zion is like a good and bad example. I mean, we've all seen the video of the kid that's like 5'3", trying to guard him. And, I mean, it didn't have an impact on Zion because they started playing in some bigger tournaments like late in his senior year, but it was just tough to see him against guys that he could just totally overpower. But luckily for Zion, he's been motivated, he has a work ethic, and he has added to his game. Or there's some guys that just, we've seen in the past, even like back when they were allowing guys to come out of high school, we all know about the Kobe's and the Garnetts and those guys, but there's a bunch of other guys that were drafted because they were just bigger, stronger than everyone else, and they totally dominated high school, and they just could not handle grown men strength, and then they just kind of faded off. So I do like the fact that I do think they should have the option to go, but I also like how college basketball kind of separates some guys that were really highly rated going into their freshman years.
Well, let's see if they can work it out. And like you said, we're going to see more information, I think, as well, coming from the NBA as far as how this G League structure for these players that are going to bypass the NCAA and also bypass overseas, how that works together. I think we're going to see a little bit more thought put into it, hopefully to get more out of it going forward. I still, again, when there's a collective bargaining agreement done, I'd still like to see high school players become eligible for the draft. I understand it's going to be a lot harder work, but with all the social media, with all the video that's out there that can be obtained by these GMs, these scouts and whatnot, I think it could be something that I think that they should look into more. I think it gets rid of a lot of this process. But then again, for the NCAA, it's going to hurt. But the NCAA is going to get hurt in regardless of any type of situation or outcome. currently that's being discussed. So I think that's going to be, at some point in time, the NCAA is just going to have to bite the bullet and say, you know what, okay, go let these high schoolers that want to play.
Yeah, I mean, I think they originally wanted to. They just didn't want them to just be there for a year. And then if you think about it, I mean, was college basketball really hurt in the mid-'90s and early 2000s when those guys, from like I said, the Garnetts, the Kobe's, Amari, even like DeMonte Ellis and Lou Williams, when those guys didn't go to college? I don't think the NCAA was hurting at that point.
Yeah.
So I just think maybe the games will be, I mean, they won't have as much star power, but you have more continuity. And then I think it just kind of evens the playing field for the mid-majors against the Dukes and the Kentuckys and the Kansases. So
that makes it more interesting for me and for everybody watching college basketball. At least I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, I'm on Rafael Barlowe from the NBA Draft Junkies. You got to check out what he's doing today as you check out on Facebook Live his whole video site, NBA Draft Junkies on YouTube. Plus, check out his awesome page, NBADraftJunkies.com, and, of course, his excellent podcast, NBA Draft Junkies as well. Kuzi Killick, Joe Gomez, they do a great job working with him on NBA Draft Junkies. I also want to give a big shout-out to Nancy Weems. Hello, Nancy, out there giving us a shout-out. Truly appreciate you going ahead and watching what we do here. Truly cannot thank you enough for doing so. But before we head out...
Nancy.
Oh, there you go. See? There you go from Rafael right there, and also from me. Quick question I want to ask you before we head to what you're doing at NBA Draft Junkies, and that is, what are you looking forward to this week as the NBA finally starts some scrimmages this week?
I'm just looking forward to NBA basketball being back. That's the main thing. And, of course, seeing who's there, seeing who's playing, seeing, what reasons they come up with for guys that aren't there. Hopefully, like with Zion, hopefully it's nothing major, that it's not another injury. It's not like a major family issue. Same with all the other guys that aren't in camp right now. So those are the two main things. And then once the scrimmages start, I know we're a day closer. We're getting closer to actual real basketball being back. So I'm looking forward to that.
As am I, my friend. As am I. But before we head on out, you got to go ahead and give an update on the 10,000 things you're doing for your experience, as you liked the way I said that. So the experience known as NBA Draft Junkies. I know you got a lot up to as far as what you're working on. You're working very hard on it. I got to compliment you again because you're doing some great stuff out there. Got now the future NBA GM outside of yourself, because you and Kuzi Killick, I see you guys 10, 15 years down the line, both on the conference call trying to work out a trade, and you maybe stickling on a second round draft choice, maybe something like that, maybe holding up the deal. But you guys go ahead and work so well on your podcast together, and obviously the podcast that you do on your own, the podcast that you do with Joe, the podcast that you do out there, the videos, the draft profiles, the breakdowns, the mock drafts you do. Tell us what you got working on right now at NBA Draft Junkies.
Well, I have a couple things. By the time this is released, there should be a podcast I did with my brother, and we did it was supposed to be our top power forwards, but my brother, he doesn't believe in 3s and 4s anymore. So he breaks it down from guards, bigs, and wings. So his list of power forwards is a little bit different. And so that will be up on the YouTube page, and it'll be up on the podcast soon. I have a couple other interviews set up. I've been able to have 3 interviews now with some international prospects. So that's pretty cool. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. The time difference can be pretty tough. Sometimes they have to set the calls for like 8 o'clock in the morning.
I know this all too well.
Yeah, but I really enjoy getting to know a few of the international guys that are second round picks, or they're projected second round picks that the American audience may not know too much about, which I think will help me out on my channel, because if and when those guys are drafted, the first thing the average fan is going to do is go to YouTube and type in the guy's name, and then they'll be able to see that I have videos on some of these prospects and also did a one-on-one interview. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that will help kind of just boost my presence as far as just getting my name out there and then on the site. I mean, I guess I'll go ahead and announce. I don't know if I should or not, but I will be doing some specific Laker content, and as far as videos. And it's interesting. I grew up a Blazers fan, and so Laker fans have been like my nemesis for years. Whether it's my roommates in college reminding me of the 2000 Western Conference Finals and just all the times that Kobe just broke our hearts with these tough buzzer beater shots. And so it's interesting how this podcast is a Lakers podcast, and I've been on pretty regularly. And then now, since the Laker fans have been, not my friends, but the fans who don't know me, have been so great to me as far as just like tuning in and just the comments, I'm going to start breaking down some videos for potential prospects that I think would be good fits for the Lakers. And so I'll be doing that with a Laker website. I don't know if I should mention which site it is, but eventually come out.
Go ahead. Hopefully he's listening to this. Hopefully you don't have a heart attack, Tom, when you're out there walking and listening to this. It is going to be on the Lakerholics experience. That's all I'll say. Is I can't say the ending of it, so I'll just say the Lakerholics experience right now for you on that. So just type in Lakerholics and it'll come right up.
Yep. So that's something that we just kind of put together. So I want to thank you for the introduction. So you've kind of, introduced me to this Laker fan base here. And so I'm looking forward to that. It just gives me another opportunity to show what I've been enjoying doing and stuff that I've been doing for a while to another fan base as far as just video projects and just kind of helping, we're all helping each other. We all are doing something that we love. We all love basketball, and we're all just kind of helping each other build our platforms to be the best. So I'm just thankful for this opportunity, like I said, to create content and to, hop on a podcast twice a week to talk basketball. So all is well in the world with me right now.
Well, you're coming on later this week. We're going to get together and we're going to talk about your first thoughts and perspectives on the scrimmages. And I know there's a lot of stuff that you're going to have coming up, but podcasting. I'm sorry I got the podcasting bug on you. I'm sorry I infected you with that bug with the podcasting deal because I just created a lot more work on your hands.
Well, you've made it worse now in the last week because first it was the podcast. You got me started. I enjoy it so much. Then every time I'm on Facebook, I just see Lakers Fast Break is live, and I see the work that you've put in, and so me being the competitive person that I am, and I'm competitive in a way of like I can't let Gerald outwork me. I can't let him outwork me, and you're definitely outworking me right now. So hopefully soon I'll be able to get on the podcast and say, so how many have you done this month? Oh, okay, only 36. Well, I'm at 42.
Oh my god!
And I don't think it's a long shot. I think that, just seeing the passion that you have and how much you love what you're doing and you're always working, I definitely think that there's big things that are going to come out of this. And so for me, it's like I'm using you as like the motivation. If you're like the Michael Jordan, I guess I'm Kobe and I'm just trying to.
Okay. My eyes are rolling now. Okay.
Well, I'm just trying to copy and you set the table as far as work ethic, so I got to come behind and just keep working.
I would say aw shucks, but that's a little bit too corny. I cannot thank you enough for the kind words. I truly appreciate it. And people think that you're not doing anything behind the scenes. There's a reason why there's so many videos up on the screen is because each and every time out, you're putting up a tremendous amount of work yourself on your NBADraftJunkies.com website, your NBA Draft Junkies YouTube page, and of course all the stuff you're doing on the podcast realm. So if I provide any inspiration to you at all in that, it's because you provide me a lot of inspiration as far as the work you do and the time you put in as far as that's concerned, and all the travels that you talked about and all the work that you put in around the world. And it's funny because I wanted to go ahead and end on your brother because you mentioned what you and your brother did. It started out, I wanted to do it one way, and then your brother had another idea. That's why I always love your conversations with your brother, to be quite honest with you, because you think it's going to start out one way and it goes off into a completely different direction or tangent. But he has a different approach in the way he looks at these draft prospects. So if anybody gets a chance to check that out, I highly recommend it because it's allowed me to look at different prospects in a new light, so to speak. Like Kira Lewis Jr., he was the one that really got me more invested into looking at seeing what he has to offer. And I really like him now going forward as a player who can make a contribution in the league. So I compliment your brother on that. But it always seems to be when you two are together having a conversation, it never seems to go, I think, directly 100% the way you want it to.
Yeah, because we did the podcast Friday. It's Monday afternoon now, and I haven't put it up yet because it's going to be a lot of editing. Just because we just started, we couldn't stay on track. We went to basketball, then we not arguing, but just brothers, and when we're talking, then sometimes he has a tendency to talk like it's just me and him. I'm like, well, no, I don't think I can put that on the podcast because I might want to interview this player one day, or I don't want the agent calling me. And I mean, he's not talking like bad about the way, but he's just giving his honest opinion and feedback on this player's strengths or his weaknesses and areas that he needs to improve on. And so he just kind of has his own way of
elaborating on it.
How he sees things. And so I think that the hard part about podcasting is, and I think just in TV general, like you still want to give your honest opinion and your honest feedback, but at the same time, you don't want to be too critical.
Yeah.
Or you don't want to be too positive on the other way where, I mean, I don't want to be like Shannon Sharp in a sense where you're just like, it doesn't seem realistic. Like there's no way he can be that big of a LeBron fan. Is this like strategic but yeah, I'll probably have to edit it just to kind of make sure that our conversation still stays on topic as far as just, what we set out for it to be, because we can go from starting to talk about the top power forwards to arguing over who's the best point guard and high school basketball history from a particular state. So just making sure that I make sure we stay on course.
Very soon, please check that out at NBA Draft Junkies for that always interesting conversation between you and your brother and all the great stuff you're doing at NBADraftJunkies.com. But yeah, I know what you mean, my friend, because even your and my conversation where we're just reporting the news on a certain three-letter word at ESPN, WOJ, that got a backstorm of comments all over the place, and I was just like, people just were negative. I'm just like, I was just saying what was going on. Sometimes you can't even do that.
Yep.
Well, all right, my friend. I'll tell you what, it's been a great episode. I appreciate you taking the time to speak to me. Again, I'm going to have you on later this week to go ahead and get your thoughts on the scrimmages, how they turned out, and what we're looking forward to, because right around the corner, my friend, the NBA
basketball
season. Yep. The NBA season will begin, and we're looking forward to it right here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.